Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Matt Sosman from Contosos Technologies, a Microsoft technology partner. This is just one of a series of webinars we record on a variety of topics that many businesses and customers ask about. Today we will be talking about Windows 7 going end of life on January 14th, 2020, and what this means to organizations. We will also talk about Windows 10 migration projects and things to consider based on our experience. To help talk more about these topics, I thought it'd be a great idea to team up with Microsoft in this webinar. Contosos Technologies works closely with Microsoft counterparts on many major projects to consult on technology, approaches, projects, and more to make sure we're providing just the right solution for our customer needs. Here with me today is Kevin Martins, who is a partner technical architect in the Modern Workplace team at Microsoft. Kevin, thank you for being here today.
Hello, Matt, and thank you for having me on today.
So Kevin, Windows 7 has been around for a long time and it is now sunsetting into what Microsoft calls end of life. What does all of this really mean?
Matt, that is a great question. Windows 7 was launched in late October 2009 in its general availability format. This version of Windows was launched to replace Windows Vista, and it quickly outgrew the number of Vista deployments. Within 2.5 years of its original release, Windows 7 grew to more than 630 million systems worldwide. That type of deployment speaks volume to how well it was received back then and how many people actually used it. The important point here is that it was released over 10 years ago. It was built during a time where computer viruses were not nearly as widespread or as sophisticated or polymorphic, which means it's constantly changing, as they are today. As with most major systems and applications Microsoft releases, Windows 7 had a 10-year support cycle where Microsoft provided updates and security patches for it. Windows 7 has now reached its end-of-life status, which happened on January 14th, 2020.
After Windows 7, Microsoft released Windows 8, then Windows 8.1. But Windows 10 launched in 2015 and is a very popular topic in the technical media. Why is this operating system so popular, and why should organizations consider upgrading to it from Windows 7?
Matt, that's a great point. So Windows 7 was actually released in 2014 in what Microsoft called a public preview. This meant that the public could test out the operating system and provide a lot of valuable feedback. At one point, Microsoft had over 1 million different testers out there giving that valuable feedback back to Windows 10. Microsoft really wanted to make sure that they got the new interface right on Windows 10. It took about a year of testing and that feedback to be incorporated into the final version of the Windows 10 operating system. So in July of 2015, Windows 10 was officially released as that next big operating system from Microsoft. But here's the kicker. By December of 2019, 4+ years later, there are over 900 million devices running Windows 10 globally. Matt, that's close to 1 billion systems running an operating system. That is unheard of. Windows 10 came with a beautiful new interface, one that was refined by almost a year of public testing and that feedback. Windows 10 came with the latest security enhancements, prompting many to look at it very closely. For example, the U.S. Department of Defense evaluated and determined the new patching and security features in Windows 10 strengthened their cybersecurity posture so much that they ordered a rapid deployment of Windows 10 to over 4 million of their systems within the first year and a half of Windows 10 being released. Organizations today are now migrating to Windows 10 not only for the security benefit, but out of compliance concerns. They need to make sure their security posture complies with things like HIPAA compliance regulations for the healthcare industry, with the finance compliance concerns of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and with the European Union's GDPR privacy regulation.
So Kevin, let's talk about some of the concerns organizations have about a migration project such as this. Can you tell us what these are and how they can be mitigated?
Sure thing, Matt. The key thing organizations need to remember is that they are not the first to migrate to Windows 10. Like I mentioned a few moments ago, there are now close to 1 billion systems running Windows 10 who have blazed this trail before them. Microsoft has taken all of this learning and applied it to the migration process to enable success. They want you to migrate to Windows 10 and have done a lot to make sure that process goes off as smooth as possible for you, your users, and your organization. So here's some of the more common concerns and questions that we've heard. So question number one, I've heard that older applications are not compatible with newer operating systems such as Windows 10. How is that handled? So here's my response. Here's my answer. Here's what I tell people. Microsoft wants to enable you to move forward and has the services that are often at no cost to help mitigate the compatibility of these applications that are out there. This includes older business critical applications made by many companies who haven't existed for years, where the source code is not even available. It is not often that we find incompatible applications, but when we do, we have these services out there to help. Again, to help you ensure that you've got a successful migration path in front of you. So one of the other questions that comes up is, okay, how will my users be impacted? Is this business impacting? And here's what I tell them. Look, most of the migrations are done in the evening and after hours. So users leave one day running Windows 7 or Windows 8, and they come back the next day running Windows 10 with all of their applications and data running as it was before. Now look, I'm not going to try to paint a complete picture of harmony here, as there are hiccups with migrations. But for the most part, this is a very smooth transition process that is enabled by all of the learning from the migrations that have gone before you. As another example of questions that I hear quite often is, hey, can my current laptops and desktops support the hardware requirements of Windows 10? Okay, there are hardware requirements that must be met to provide a great user experience on Windows 10, no doubt. Let's look at this. Again, Windows 10 has been out for close to 5 years, and we can look at systems that have been bought within the past 5 years, and we can say that typically they meet these hardware requirements. If they don't, well, then we should really talk about replacing your systems older than that anyway, not just because of the supportability of Windows 10. Then let's talk about the cost. A lot of people have questions. Okay, this sounds expensive. This sounds very much like it's a manual effort and it's going to cost me a lot of money. So here's what I like to explain. Most of the migrations on these systems are automated without any interaction required. Each machine may take an hour or two to complete the upgrade, depending on the system hardware capabilities. Obviously, the faster machine you have, the faster the migration is going to go. To help us prepare for these types of upgrades, one of the ways we get data about your environments, the hardware and the applications, is through the use of Windows Analytics. This valuable data is used to identify existing hardware and compatibility issues so that we can better prepare for automated upgrades that have a much higher chance of success given the migration issues that are found and mitigated beforehand. So Matt, we've talked about Windows 7 and we've talked about Windows 10 and some of the common questions people bring to Microsoft for migration projects such as this one. Tell me more about the approach of Contoso Technologies. Tell me more about the approach that Contoso Technologies has developed with its customers around this project.
Thanks, Kevin. I just want to say that we've done many of these, and by many, I mean we've migrated thousands of systems to Windows 10, and we have the experience to get this done the right way, soup to nuts. So we start by talking with you about your business, about your goals, timelines, discover when your users are least likely to be online, what are the critical dates for your organization, and all of those type of technical details that have to go along with the migration. And we try to understand everything needed to help plan out this successful migration. We then take an automated inventory of all your systems using the telemetry from your Windows 7 systems that are already configured that they also provide. This data is then analyzed to talk about any upgrade issues that we may be anticipating that are either hardware or software related. And yes, we can even get reports on applications that are known to be compatible with Windows 10, as well as those that require some investigation. This helps us plan for success before we even start. And then using all of this information, we then develop a project plan with dates, user communications, planning, targeted systems, And we'll even work with you to identify your executive team who you may want to have a more white glove experience, that is someone at their system to monitor the upgrade and verify everything is working well.
Matt, I love the approach that Contoso Technologies has with this type of project. So what's next? What about organizations who want to know more about Windows 7 end of life, more about Windows 10, more about their migration objects? What should they do next?
With all of this in mind, we encourage organizations to simply contact us for more information. We are happy to schedule a no-cost half-day whiteboarding session with you to walk through and demonstrate the upgrade process using one of our systems. We want you to see firsthand what a user will experience during a migration and ask informed questions. We can then talk more about your environment, provide some recommendations, and where we may be able to assist you with this project. Wrapping this up for today, on behalf of Kevin and I, thank you so much for listening to our webinar, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.